Every single time you stream a movie, fire off an email, or even just scroll through your phone, you're using a resource you probably haven't even thought about. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this invisible ingredient that literally powers our entire digital world. And I'm telling you, it's not what you think.
So let me ask you, when you think about what powers all your devices, all your data, what's the first thing that actually pops into your head?
And look, if you said electricity, you're not wrong. But that's really only half the picture. The other half is something way more fundamental and, in a lot of places around the world, a whole lot scarcer. Get a load of this number, 210 trillion liters. Let that sink in for a second. That is the insane amount of water the global semiconductor industry uses every single year. Just to put that into perspective, that's enough water to supply a city the size of Hong Kong for an entire year. It's a figure that's almost impossible to wrap your head around. So the big question is, how on earth does making these tiny little computer chips use so much water? Okay, let's break down this incredibly thirsty process. Right, so the magic all happens inside these super specialized plants called fabs. This is where microchips, the brains behind all of our electronics, are actually brought to life through a process called fabrication. Making a chip basically breaks down into three big steps. First, you design it, kind of like a blueprint, then you build it, and finally, you package it all up. But the crucial part, the thing you have to remember, is that middle step, fabrication. That's where the vast majority of all that water gets used. And we're not talking about just any old tap water here. This is something called ultrapure water, or UPW. It's used to rinse these delicate silicon wafers again and again and again. I mean, a single microscopic speck of dust can totally ruin a chip, so these things have to be cleaner than anything you can possibly imagine. And get this, the more powerful the chip, the more rinsing it needs. The scale we're talking about is just mind-blowing. A single chip factory can burn through about 14 billion liters of this water a year. And that's not even the whole story. The data centers that store all our cloud information also need huge amounts of water for cooling, sometimes more than 2 billion liters a year. And this, right here, brings us to the absolute heart of the problem. This incredibly thirsty industry is expanding the fastest in the very places where water is already running out. It's basically setting up a global collision course over a resource we all need to survive. Okay, just look at this map. It lays out the problem so clearly. The white dots, those are the chip factories. The red and orange areas, those are regions facing high to extreme water stress. You can see the dangerous overlap immediately, especially in places like the Western US, parts of Asia, and Europe. And listen, this isn't some old problem with factories built decades ago. 40% of the fabs that already exist are in these stressed out regions. But what's truly shocking is that since 2021, we've kept on building over 40% of our new factories in the exact same vulnerable places. We are actively, right now, doubling down on this massive risk. This isn't some far-off theoretical problem either. It's happening right now. Just look at Taiwan, the world's capital for advanced chips. A few years back, a single missed typhoon season plunged the country into a historic drought. It got so bad that the chip giant TSMC had to start trucking in water just to keep the production lines from shutting down. Or how about Arizona? It's become a huge hotspot for new chip investment, with both Intel and TSMC building enormous new plants there. At the exact same time, the state has been stuck in a drought for over a decade and was just forced to cut its water use from the Colorado River by over 20%. I mean, you literally couldn't design a more precarious situation if you tried. So you see, a water shortage in one place isn't just a local issue. It creates these massive ripple effects that can disrupt the entire global economy. It's creating huge risks for the industry, market risks, reputational risks, and even policy risks. First up, market risk. The world is, frankly, dangerously dependent on that one company in Taiwan, TSMC. It produces an unbelievable 90% of the world's most advanced chips. So when a drought hits Taiwan, like we saw, it threatens the supply chain for literally everything, from our phones to our cars. Then you've got reputational risk, and local communities are really starting to notice and push back. This photo here is from France, where you've got protesters demanding water, not chips. They see these giant factories coming in and sucking up their precious local water, and they are not happy about it. And it is not just in France. Look at these headlines from all over the world. It shows this growing global movement from Mexico to Chile to the US. People are starting to ask really tough questions about whether the digital economy's thirst is actually sustainable for their own communities. And, well, in response to all that pressure, governments are finally stepping in. This creates what we call policy risk. Taiwan is jacking up water prices for big industrial users. South Korea is cracking down on water pollution from so-called forever chemicals used in chip making. The bottom line is, the era of cheap, unregulated water for big tech seems to be coming to an end. But you know what? It's not all doom and gloom. The industry is very aware of this problem, and it's starting to respond with some pretty incredible innovations and new strategies. The big players are setting some seriously ambitious targets. You can see TSMC is focusing on efficiency, trying to use less water for every chip they make. Google is going even further with this water-positive goal, which means they plan to put back more water into the environment than they use. And Microsoft is also working on its water intensity. These are some serious commitments. So how are they actually going to meet these goals? Well, they're deploying a whole toolkit of solutions. It's everything from high-tech, on-site water recycling and closed-loop cooling to much bigger projects, like restoring local watersheds and working with farmers and cities on how to better manage the region's water. And some of this technology is seriously impressive. Just take closed-loop cooling for data centers. Instead of just letting water evaporate to cool the servers, these systems circulate the same water over and over again. A single system like this can save 125 million liters of water every year. That's a huge step in the right direction. Which, of course, leaves us with the big final question. Our demand for data, for AI, for more processing power, it's all growing exponentially. The solutions we're seeing are really promising, but the reality is that water scarcity is accelerating even faster. So the race is on. Can our own technological ingenuity actually outpace the physical limits of our planet? That's the question that is going to define the entire next chapter of technology.